Heavy bass has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down. Here it is an Overreaction Wednesday. It is our second straight Overreaction Wednesday, and have the reactions changed a little bit after Atlanta United wins 1-0 again and advances 2-0 on aggregate past Alajuelense into the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals for the third straight year. The first MLS team to do that 3 straight years. But we got reactions. We're going to talk about reactions, and we're going to try to make sense of everything as best we can. Also, we're going to try to make sense of PSG knocking Bayern out. Bayern did win yesterday, but not by enough to advance. So the champs are out in Europe. PSG delivered a performance that showed a little bit of guts, a little bit of fortitude, and they get by Bayern. They get into the semis. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the U.S. women's national team with a nice win against a not quite first-choice French national team, but a good win and a really good performance from Alex Morgan, who is staking her claim to being the number 9 for the U.S. women in the Olympics this summer. We've got the full Olympic field now as well after some play-in games. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Portland, demolition job on Marathon. We'll talk about Cruz Azul doing what everybody expected against Arce. Lots of stuff. We'll get into all of it. We're going to start with reactions. We're going to start with all the reactions, and we're going to start with one person's reactions we've not heard from as of yet. Jarrett Smith, are you there?
Yes.
Hello.
Pour one out for Arce.
Yeah. I mean, we knew it was coming.
That went exactly like I thought it would in Cruz Azul. But they gave us 90 fun, stupid minutes in the first leg, and that's more than I expected.
Yes. What were your reactions to Atlanta and Alajuelense?
Hey, you know what happens if you win every game 1-0 in Champions League? You win the whole thing!
I heard that.
Yeah.
You're still trying to put pieces together. I don't really know what people expected because I felt like the lead up to it and the reactions afterward were not really on the same wavelength. Don't really know what people expected, but yeah, you're working a striker back into form. This is the first competitive game Marcelino Moreno has played since December, when he decided to actually take out some vengeance on Liga MX teams. You're trying to find your rhythm. It's against a team that has not lost 2 out of 3 games since August, and you got it done. It doesn't have to be beautiful. This is something that is going to be really interesting in the next round. Whether you get Saprissa or Philadelphia, I think it will be Philadelphia personally.
Yes,
but it's not going to always be pretty, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. But I felt like the expectations before the game and the reactions afterward did not live on the same wavelength of like what everyone said after the game. Like, well, wait a minute, before the game you had A, B, and C in mind. It's not going to be. It was never going to be like. I think they were looking at the Portland game, thinking that's what this is going to be. No. Now Marathon and Alajuelense not really in the same postal code at the moment in terms of teams. So yeah, that wasn't going to be the same thing. Also, Portland has a strategy built in mind because at this point, Giovanni Savarese has carved out the brainstem of every player in Portland and implanted his own devices with which they will execute his program to basically to death, to ruin everyone else, because Giovanni Savarese remains underrated at what he does. And they're installing a couple guys. They're missing a couple guys too, but they still have a system in place. Atlanta's doing a bigger install right now. You're playing a tougher team. You got to win at home. Was it perfect? No. You didn't expect it to be if you were being realistic.
Yeah. Just to give you a glimpse, because I saw a lot of comparisons that are not accurate with Marathon and Alajuelense. In the CONCACAF League last year, and the match was played on December 1st, Saprissa, who we've seen now and who is farther behind Alajuelense in the Costa Rican League, Saprissa went to Marathon and won 2-0 on December 1st. Marathon had to grind out a win over Forge FC of the Canadian Premier League on December 8th to get into this tournament. Marathon coming into this before the last weekend of league games, before they played their first CONCACAF match, they had not won since late February. So, comparing Alajuelense, who had been on a 25-game unbeaten streak coming into CONCACAF, versus Marathon, is like in this country comparing Columbus last year to Cincinnati, almost. It's not in the same ballpark. So saying, well, Portland did this, so Atlanta should do this. No. You will drive yourself crazy with that stuff because it's not the same thing. You literally can't do it effectively. Second, you are trying to build a way of playing that cannot be implemented in 2 months of training, a few scrimmages, joint training exercises, et cetera, against lower-level competition, and 2 games, yes, against lower-level competition, but very good lower-level competition when it comes to Alajuelense. If that is your method, if that is your game model, and you can fully implement it and be playing your best soccer after game 2 of that type of preparation, your best soccer ain't very good. I know that's high-level analysis. It ain't very good. Big Sam, yes.
That's Clark County analysis.
Well, sometimes we got to keep it simple because Big Sam keeps it simple.
Yep.
Big Sam, he can walk in day one, and he said it. I can walk in, I can do this, and that's how we play. Well, is it very good? No. So you want something that builds. I remember Pep Guardiola year 1 in England. He can't do it. His game doesn't work here. He's not good enough. He's not an English coach. He's not a Premier League manager. What? He's going to fail. Yeah. Look, that happened in Spain, too, when they lost their first game under Pep. People were freaking out. Like, oh, no, he doesn't. And at that point, he didn't have much of a track record. But, oh, no, we're freaking out. And it was Johan Cruyff who wrote a column about that first game that Pep had. I believe it was against Numancia. And he said this was the best that Barcelona has attempted to play in years. The result wasn't there, but the way they tried to play, that's what you want to be. That's where you want to go. The results will come. Pep was having self-doubts because he was a young coach at that time. That was his first game in La Liga. He was coming off of a season where he got Barcelona B promoted from the 3rd division to the 2nd. And it was players like Xavi and Iniesta coming in and saying, we believe in you. We believe in this way of playing. We're going to be fine. And that put him at ease. If you hear the comments from the players about the way Atlanta United is playing and what they are working on, that should put you at ease. They believe in what they're doing. And I think it's abundantly clear. Last night, Brooks Lennon was the player who spoke to the media after the match. CONCACAF has some different rules with media availability and such. And he said, on the attack, we scored 2 goals in 2 games. These are our first 2 games of the season. We need a little more time to gel. We are creating chances, corner kicks, free kicks. We just need to play a little more together, and we will score more goals. What did the team learn? We are learning a lot. We are trying to implement the new style of play that we are asked to play. We have played a tough side in Alajuelense. They have a lot of young talent. We are trying to implement everything we learned in preseason from Gabriel, and hopefully we can transition that to the MLS season. We are just going day by day and picking up everything we can. The most important part is being together as a team, and we are starting to gel, so that's looking good. It's huge. I mean, the belief is there. He went on to say, we are still trying to learn every single day from Gabriel and his staff. After our first leg in Costa Rica, we sat down and watched video tirelessly on the things we could improve on and what we did well. I'm sure we'll be doing that this week and go over on the things he wants us to do better. Train the things we aren't doing well. That's what Gabriel has implemented. The things as we as a collective team need to work on. We go to the training field and work on those to get better. We have to play more games to understand the style more and more. I'm excited for a successful season ahead. No hesitation. There's no self-doubt here. Gabriel said specifically, there are many things to improve. It's game 2. That's it. You cannot jump to the conclusions that some are jumping to after expecting things that were honestly not fair to expect. We talked about it on the post-game show last night, John. We've talked about before the hire, when the rumor started, this is what Gabriel Heinze has done at Vélez. It is very good. It is not what some people are putting out there about his teams are scoring 10 goals a game. They're very good. They're very active. They're very fun to watch. They're very good defensively. And we've seen that play out. He didn't have the attacking talent that he has now. He's working on bringing that together. But this 2 games, 180 minutes, no goals conceded, 2 goals, 1 from the spot, tracks with what we have seen his teams do in the way that they build over time.
And with what you were relaying from what Brooks said last night in post, with what Coach Heinze said last night in post, the point that I will continue to impress, that I will continue to reinforce, you have had 2 games so far. You've had joint training exercises, games behind closed doors, all that kind of stuff. You have played 2 games. You are building something. Rome wasn't built in a day. This system wasn't built in a day. It's being built. It is going to take, there are steps here. It's not something where you instantaneously put the car in drive, hit the accelerator, and everything is going to work. It is in stages here, and that's the biggest thing. Once again, 180 minutes, no goals scored. 140 of those minutes were with someone who is 18 years old. And you have someone back there in Rocco Rios Novo who is confident from what we have seen, confident in his way of doing things. And I think that that's a plus. You take that and you learn from it as well. Brooks Lennon, you said it. Brooks said they're learning. They haven't learned everything. They are learning. It is a present participle. That means that there's still stuff that they have to do, and they recognize this. They're starting to gel. Once again, that happens when you play games with meaning, and you've played 2 games with meaning. You still have a lot more games in your seasons and all of your competitions, but you're starting to gel. It is a process. Brooks is saying this. You play more games. That's how you continue to do this kind of stuff. So, and many things to improve upon. If you ask the players themselves, they would admit that as well. Gabriel Heinze says that in postgame, that this is all of a process. You're 2 games into a process. Take the results from these first 2 games, which are important in a hemispheric sense. Take those lessons, build on them, come forward, and start your Major League Soccer season this weekend with everything that you've learned to date and will continue to learn going forward.
Atlanta created 12 chances last night. They had 15 shots, 5 on target. Really nothing to complain about with those numbers at all. Second half was better than the first, absolutely. And before we get into reactions from the peeps out there, I talked about it, I think, on the pregame with Mike Conti. I know I talked about it in the game, and Jarrett, we talked about it yesterday. The lineup was going to be a big question mark because Alawalense was missing 2 of their 3 forwards. Were they going to stick with the 4-4-2 that they have played consistently under Karvik, or were they going to change that up? You didn't know coming in. You needed to play. You're obviously going to play Sosa. He's a first-choice guy here. But you needed to play Ibarra because if Sosa had to be a center back due to them playing 2 forwards, you needed Ibarra's kind of grit and defensive ability in that central midfield. If you didn't have to do that and Sosa played as a holding midfielder in front, you could make a change, take Ibarra out, move Barco back into that central midfield. That's what you did at halftime. But the way you started, and this is the important thing, you had to do that because of the unknown here. Gabriel Heinze is not going to leave stuff to chance. There are a lot of managers who would just say, we're going to do what we do, and that's it, and we don't care. Well, if you're going to play the way Gabriel Heinze plays, you have to care because you don't want your 2 center backs matched up 2 versus 2 all day if the other team's going to play long. You got to have one more guy there. That's how you win games. That's how you are more effective. That's how you go from being okay or basic to top level. But you had to start this way because of that unknown. You fixed it at halftime, and Barco is better centrally. The midfield functioned better because of that, because Ibarra is more of a ball winner than a ball, progressor. He's more of that winning the ball. He's not as great on the ball. He hasn't been in a system where he's been asked to be on the ball like this. He struggled a little bit there. He'll get that. Give him time. He's 19. He's got now 13 games under his belt. He's still a kid. He's got to develop that side of his game. But you needed his defensive work in there just in case. You figured out you didn't need it just in case. You made the change. Team was much better in the second half. All right, let's get into the questions and comments and reactions. John, you've got the Twitters up. Go for it.
All right. I'm going to start with a comment from Baskers and I'm going to turn it a little bit because Baskers references the first leg and what Baskers thought we were discussing with one player in particular. And it's about Anton Walkes. Baskers says that Walkes played 180 minutes so well over these first two legs, although Baskers, I will disagree that we gave Anton a lot of credit from what we saw with him in the first leg, in addition to Robinson and Bello. Baskers' overall comment, Walkes played 180 minutes so well. What were his final passing numbers last night?
Last night, he was 81 of 81, and we're trying to figure that out. And look, a lot of those were not under pressure. I mean, we do have to be real about that, but he didn't have any unforced errors. From what we can tell, that is the best passing performance ever for Atlanta United. There's some Open Cup games and some CCL games where the full stats weren't readily available, so we'll double-check it, but from what we have, that is the best that anyone has done. And it wasn't just that for Walkes. Last night, Walkes had 4 interceptions. He had 3 tackles. Yeah, in the leg one, Robinson stood out more. In this game, you could say that Robinson stood out a little bit more. You can. I mean, he had 4 interceptions and 3 tackles, same as Anton. He had 5 clearances. He stepped forward a little bit more because of the way the roles worked out. He was very good. Bello has been very good. Bello had the toughest assignment last night, so he stood out a little bit more because, one, he did have a run there where he was struggling a bit, a segment of the game where he was struggling. I think he was getting tired, but he finished incredibly strong. So the back line as a whole, and Lennon was able to get forward a little bit more, not have quite as much defensively to do. He contributed in that phase. The back line across the board was very, very good. And I think the point that Heinze made last night that's critical here, because he was asked about what the defense did well. He said, excuse me, but I think it's a collective job, not the defense or midfielders or forwards. I think it's the totality of all the lines that sustains the defense. And today, they could have also received a goal. Yeah, they could have. They didn't give up really a whole lot of chances created, but they weren't perfect. They were good. And it takes everybody for that to work. Sosa becomes critical to that when he's in the midfield. Ibarra in the first half in his performance. The wingers coming back to defend. There's lots of elements that come into it.
Chris Hutchison says, I'm glad we won, but it looks to me like this team is still trying to build connections and find its identity. Based on what I saw last night, I believe the Orlando match is going to be a real slog on Saturday.
Of course they're trying to build connections and chemistry. They've played 2 games. I mean, that's understood. And I don't know where it was promoted that wouldn't be the case. I'm not sure. I don't know where that's coming from. But again, if you want to play in a simple, basic way, you can hit the ground running and you can be what you are. When Big Sam thinks it is a compliment to come out and say, why, this is how you stay up in the Premier League. This is what you do. And it's like 5 things on a checklist, and that's it. Well, would you describe Big Sam's way of playing as intricate or anything to do with chemistry or anything to do with building momentum or anything to do with anything people who value good soccer would enjoy? No. It takes time to play the way that you want to play in this, because this is a way of playing that has a much higher ceiling. You can't get there in some training sessions in 2 games. You just can't. So, yeah, you're still building. And that's why Gabriel Heinze has called it a project. and that's why he treats it as such. Because if you're just coming in to get quick fixes and get results, sure, he's probably not the right guy. But that wasn't ever the idea here from what we've heard and what people have said they want. So why are we getting impatient now? Go ahead, Jared.
And to your point about, you go back to Walks' numbers and you go back to it being a project. That's what I wanted yesterday. And that's what I talked about yesterday is don't hand them anything. Don't hand them a lifeline. And you didn't. I mean, they created chances. It wasn't perfect, but you didn't hand them like, oh, here's a horrible back pass that's going to lead to a golden opportunity. Everyone took care of the ball. Everyone did their job. And if you can defend from the front, the middle, and the back consistently, you're going to have more of a leash to play with as you kind of build out this project. If you're not giving up goals, it makes life a lot easier if you're developing that offensive side. I think it's one of the reasons you saw early in 2019 the talk about, well, we're working strictly defensive. You wanted to build that defensive capability and the ability to keep people out because you can't lose games if you don't give up goals. And it gives you a bit more room and a bit more comfort level when you're building your offensive sets if everybody on the defensive side is doing their job from the forwards on back.
Mm-hmm. One more from Twitter, and then we'll jump over to the Twitch pitch for a minute.
Shiva, I can't listen live today. Here's my thoughts. It was more fun watching the team last week for 45 minutes than it was yesterday. Worried about Orlando in the first couple of season games, but not worried for the overall season. We will find our form soon and get rolling.
Yeah, and I talked about it last night on the watch along. I mean, I can see a situation where the players got a little tentative yesterday because the situation's different. You've got the lead. You want to protect the lead. They didn't step up as high with pressure as often as I would have liked, as often as I expected as well. And I think we saw that change in the second half. That was one of the elements that was better. There was a little more connection when the team stepped up to press. They were just more willing to put some pressure on. The game did open up a little bit because of that, and that can be a concern as well. I wasn't ever worried about losing this. And that's the number one element here is advancing. You're building, you're working through, but you want to keep things in check as well and advance, and you did that. Can it be better? Absolutely, it can be better. But we've got to understand, and I don't know, and you guys have to tell me because everybody's got different opinions on this part, and everybody's got a different feeling about the game. Do you want fun first, or do you want winning first? I asked this question a lot during the Frank DeBoer time, and I never really got clear answers from people. I know the idea of winning 4-3 is beautiful. Honestly, the idea of winning 5-1 is the most beautiful. It's the most realistic because you're not going to win games 10-0 on a regular basis. Big wins are the best. Big, close wins with a lot of goals, next. Maybe for some. Others would say a 1-0 win is great too. All of those, there is not a loss that I will put ahead of any win. That's the part that I don't understand because I think we say that sometimes after wins that, yeah, I'd rather risk losing 4-3. Would you? Really? Because then I think there'd be complaints on the other side. This team's held to a high standard because it should be. But there also has to be educated, informed conversation about it for those standards to make sense. It's not just they should win every game 5-0 and there's no other way around it for it to be successful. No team in the world does that. And everybody reacts to their teams in different ways, and that's totally understandable. But what is it that people want? Do you just want fun, or do you want trophies? The way that Gabriel Heinze is intending to build this team, from the building blocks we've seen, from what he has said in the past, from the way he sees the game, is to build a style that is entertaining, that is fun, that is very open and expansive, but is also one that can win. And that's going to be the key for me, is the winning. That's the part that I want to see. The rest is fun and great, and I love it. I like wins. Maybe I'm greedy that way. Maybe I was related to Al Davis. I don't know. I like wins. And a 1-0 win is nothing to be too upset about when you really weren't at risk of ever trailing here. You gave up one shot on target. Most of the shots you gave up in this series were from outside the 18. Take that all day long.
Just win, baby.
Just got to do it. All right, Jarrett, I'm going to throw a couple from the Twitch pitch at you. One from Sam Williamson we don't have any answers to because we're not attorneys. The Alan Franco visa issue, will it be fixed by the weekend? I don't know. I got nothing, Sam. I'm sorry. I hope so, but I don't know the situation. Alex Bassine, this is not a binary of we are good or we are not yet good. Even after we are clicking, we'll hit a setup or situation that is new, and Atlanta's going to take time to build that toolbox of Gabbyland responses to every situation. You've seen this, Jarrett, as somebody who watched Celtic in the past year, and yeah, you won a lot of games against lesser competition. Well, no, it's important, Jarrett. I'm sorry I'm going to have to make you suffer through some bad memories, but your side won a lot of games against bad teams. And they also lost some games against other teams that they shouldn't have. But they weren't really playing good soccer. And I think even when they won, because we had this conversation a lot, you didn't like where it was going because of what you could see. And I know Celtic's in a different situation, and they should dominate, and they should win games even by walking through it. But I think you could see that it wasn't building to anything good. And here, it feels like it is. I think that's just such a huge difference.
I think it is. You can go back and watch those games in Glasgow, and it's caveman ball. You're getting by on. It's the difference between trying to build something and getting by on pure talent and just bludgeoning people, which I know was a feeling during some of the Frank DeBoer era that people felt like Atlanta was just bludgeoning with raw talent without a system. And that's what it felt like watching Celtic at times. And this does feel different. Again, I think it's really hard to make any grand proclamations about Heinze's system, about what Atlanta United can be in 2021, because it's 180 minutes. Half of that was done in Costa Rica against a team that hasn't won 2 games since I cared about the Falcons' 2020 season.
That hadn't lost 2 out of 3 since then.
Yeah, hadn't lost 2 out of 3.
It had lost 2 out of 3 since August.
Sorry, I mentioned Celtic, and Jarrett got upset and nonsensical.
But it's 180 minutes. I don't want any grand proclamations about this team when Wednesday morning?
Mm-hmm.
You got a couple days until you got to go play Orlando. By the way, Orlando's going to be missing a couple guys because, remember, they went off the damn reservation in the playoff game and decided red cards were in. You don't even start the league until Saturday. You've played 180 minutes. All of them were against a tricky opponent. And you're working guys back in. I don't want a thesis on what this team can or can't be after 180 minutes. If you're going to live your life by 90 minutes writing a thesis about a team that's installing a new system, Godspeed. You're going to be emotionally unstable as all hell.
Yeah, you will. Walchara says, could you see where you've been the first quarter of the year, then go full steam ahead? It's overly simplistic. I said it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I'll continue to. Look at 2017 and 18 as a probable, it's not a definite, but it's a probable route for the way this team develops. 2017, you had a lot of ups and downs throughout the year. You got to September, and the schedule was weird because you had a lot of weird things go on early, but you had a bunch of home games in the back end. You were playing your best soccer at that point. You took advantage of them. You went from being an up-and-down team that was all over the place at times, couldn't beat DC United, all these weird things that would go on in 17 as you were figuring it out, to being a team that going into the postseason, nobody really wanted to see. You were a contender at that point. Then you get into 2018, and you come in, and you're expected to be one of the best teams. You have that stumble in week 1, and from then on, you were pretty much the best or the second best team all season long, and you win MLS Cup. This is not a league that is based on winning 30 of 34 games, and you win the league. It's a league based on playing your best soccer at the end of the season because you got to win in the postseason. You got to win MLS Cup. The way that Gabriel Heinze is building this team, they can be an MLS Cup contender this year, and they can be an even better team next year. That pathway is what I expect. That doesn't mean bend the first half of the season. That doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I think that kind of idea has got to be thrown away. Bend that. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have games where you play well because it all clicks. You're going to have games where just your method of playing is so much better than the opponent you're playing. And sometimes you're going to have games where you play somebody tough and they do something different you haven't seen, you haven't experienced yet, and you have a bad day. That's going to happen too. So Atlanta will build, and the idea here is to be your best at the end of every season you participate in. And then every year subsequent with Gabriel Heinze, you start from a better position. That's the idea. Look at Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. He didn't win out of the gate. I mean, they were mid-table, basically. I think they were 8th.
7th or 8th, yeah.
He didn't win straight away. It took him a lot of time. It took him more time than it takes some other top managers. He got a lot of time. Pep won pretty fast, but after year 1, people were making all kinds of comments. If you're going to play in a way like this, you got to have some patience to let it grow. And you got to build the defense first. I mean, that's the number one thing for me that I don't really get. You can't build a winning team by only focusing on the attack. You just can't. You look at the way these games are played in the MLS postseason. If you're not strong enough defensively, you're going to suffer. Ask LAFC. Ask them, because they focus the other way, and look what it's got them. It's got them a supporter shield. That's a pretty plate. It's nice. They don't have an MLS Cup. They don't have an Open Cup. They haven't been in a Campeones Cup. They did get to a CONCACAF final in one of the weirdest kind of tournaments, and it all fell for them, where they didn't have to go to Mexico after losing Game 1 to León. They didn't have to go there in the quarters or the semis. They got to the final, and they still couldn't do it. So you got to have something to base on, and building from the defense where you haven't given up a goal in 180. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good starting point. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You got to be along for the ride here, and I just don't know why you've seen anything that would scare you from that right now. Does it mean you're going to go to Orlando and win 5-0? No. Orlando's very good. They're better than Alajuelense. They haven't played a competitive game yet, but they're better. Okay, they also play in a different way, and does that match up better with Atlanta? We're going to find out. Is Atlanta in a little bit more of a rhythm? We're going to find out. But the idea that things are now we're scared again. Can't live that life. Can't live that life. It's not a fun life to live.
You're going to have games where everything is going to work 100%. You're going to have games where you're going to have moments of learning. You're going to have games that are clunkers. As things are trying to build, this is what this bottom line. You're going to have each one of those 3 moments at times this season, and the idea is to learn from each of those 3 moments, apply it, build going forward, and continue to grow to where you're your best at the end of the season, so you can get the playoff run in, get to MLS Cup, win MLS Cup. It's all about progression, knowing full well that the ride isn't going to be at 100% each and every time. You'd love for it to be, but it's not realistic. You're going to have growth moments. You're going to have moments where you stub your toe and you trip. That's how you respond after you get back up. That's the bottom line. You're going to have each and every one of those things happen this season. It's how you respond after that happens as a part of this whole growth curve.
Colonel says an Atlanta victory in Florida might be an overachievement, but I expect some things to gel on the weekend. It might be an overachievement to win down there because they're good. They're good. Look at what they did last year. They're very talented. You get a win down there, and that's a statement. You go on the road and win against a top team in this league, it's a statement. So, yeah, that would be big. Go down there and get a result. Go down there and play well is what I'm looking for. Go down there and make it difficult for them to play. Get them frustrated. Make them lose their heads because you're making it difficult for them to do the things they want to do. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the quality of the performance as much as anything. 22J Friend says, I just want our attack to be a threat. Last night it was. You had 5 shots on target. You had 15 shots in total. You created 12 chances. That's a threat. You don't normally create 12 chances in a game. That's on the high side. 15 shots is on the high side. 5 shots on target is on the slightly high side. That's a threat. That's 100% a threat. You also do have to understand that Alawalenze in the 2 legs was sitting pretty deep. Now, even when they had the man advantage, they weren't exactly, risking a ton at that point. They were still playing pretty organized. We don't want to get beat here. First 45 down there, they were absolutely doing that. They were getting numbers behind the ball. They did that yesterday. So you are playing a team that is trying to nullify your attack being a threat. I think it still was a threat. You need to produce more. And this goes to Martha's comment just a little bit. Martha says, despite my best effort to calm her take, my gut says we need another goal-hungry player in the attack. Marcelino Moreno's goal-hungry. He had a couple poor shots yesterday. I think Emerson Hyndman's actually goal-hungry, and he had a good chance in this series. Ezequiel Barco is developing more of a hunger for goal. He is. I mean, his 1v1 with the goalkeeper last night, I mean, he could have finished that, and then maybe we're having a different conversation about that with him. But he's developing more of that. And I think that's going to be a big thing for Gabriel Heinze to bring out of him in the role he's going to be playing. Not just the setup role. You got to give us something, too, in terms of scoring goals. Jurgen Damm's not really too goal-hungry, in my opinion. He's always looking to create for others. That's fine, too. You need that in the attack out of your front 5. I think you've got guys who are goal-hungry. You need goal production. And that's a different conversation. The 15 shots, the 5 on target, the 12 chances created, you need more from it. You need better composure in those moments at times. You need better production in those moments. That's a different conversation. Let's see against a team like Orlando that has a very good defensive unit, that has a great goalkeeper. Let's see how things look there. If you get these kind of numbers again, where you're getting into the double digits on shots, chances created, you're getting 5 or more shots on target, that's a good day. That's a good day at the office, but you do need to produce more. You need somebody to score goals outside of just Joseph. You do. But I don't think it's a hunger issue. I think it's a performance issue. I think it is a production issue more.
Yeah, Marcelino Moreno had a couple of opportunities last night, one in the 36th, and then there was the one that went over the bar. You had Barco with a couple of
Moreno had more than a couple of chances, John. Moreno had 3 shots off target, 1 shot on target, 4 total shots. I mean, that's pretty productive, but the 3 off target, yeah. The 1 on target was a pretty easy save. The one time from Dom, his cross was a good idea. Just pulled it wide or pushed it wide. He had a couple of poor shots where he cut inside.
Yeah,
4 shots is fine. I mean, that's productive. You don't get a lot of guys who average 4 shots per game. I'll take that. You need him to produce. Need him to pop one in the back of the net.
Right. And we saw Barco with a couple of shots as well. And I think Dom even had one from inside the 18. So it's just taking those shots, converting them into putting them on the scoreboard.
You had 15 shots. You had 5 on target.
Yeah.
The production of creating those was good. The actual production of finding the back of the net, that's the part that needs to improve.
Right.
Jason Nick says, I don't need blowouts or the most beautiful football, but I need 2-goal leads and strong defense. We were 1 pass away from penalties last night. Not for me. Jarrett, thoughts?
Life's going to be dangerous sometimes. Especially just for me, because you're dealing with a situation where it's, again, I'm going to keep beating this horse into the ground until there's nothing left of the horse, but it's your first 180 minutes of competitive play. They're sitting a bit deeper. They're not coming out where you can potentially take advantage of them. It's hard to press a team that wants to sit that deep. And yeah, I mean, they went undefeated for a while. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a glitch. And I get that Costa Rica is not MLS.
Yeah, it's not.
They're not going to play Atlanta's. But you go that long without losing a game, you're doing something correct. And I think they deserve a little bit more credit, but that's just me. Alawalenze does, just for what they are. Like, they're good. Like, I feel like everybody has kind of taken this weird merry-go-round of, oh, it's a Costa Rican team. At least we didn't get a Mexican team. So it'll be okay in the draw. Oh, Ella Wednesday doesn't lose games. Oh my God, they're still not losing games. This might be tricky. I don't know if we can. This is going to be a tough draw too. How come we didn't beat them 5-0? I feel like we have gone on this merry-go-round of up and down emotions about Ella Wednesday.
Yeah, that part has been really weird, and I think some of it is the little bit that I've seen out there from the way people look at this. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I watch the Costa Rican League every single day and know every single thing about it. No, I don't. But when the draw happened, I did my homework, and they were the best team outside of MLS or Mexico in the tournament. They were. And you had it tough. They had 25 straight without a loss, even though they were starting to slow down a little bit coming into the series. They still had that. It wasn't going to be easy. Should you have won? Absolutely, you should have won. You should have been the favored team. Anybody who said that Atlanta was not the favorite against Alajuelense, I'm sorry, you don't understand Central American soccer at this point. You haven't paid attention to it, and you don't respect MLS enough. 100%. And the Saprissa one was even more mind-blowing, because then you really didn't do your homework, because Saprissa is not Saprissa right now. Flat out. So that stuff frustrates me to no end, because it creates false narratives. Yes, it's tough because you're playing the best team outside of Mexico in this tournament. Yes, outside of Mexico and MLS. You couldn't be drawn against an MLS team in the first round. You got the toughest draw you could outside of getting Leon, period. Yes, you still should have won it. But yes, you're going to suffer through it. Those things are all accurate. That's just the reality. So that's okay. You can't twist it to say that, well, no, you should win because they're from Costa Rica. Or you can't twist it to say, well, no, they're Alajuelense, so you should lose. Like, neither are true. Like, it's not going to be easy against a good team. They are a good team. They're a lesser team, but they're a good team for their level. Like, I thought, we kind of talked about this in the sense that, yes, you should win, but yes, it's not going to be easy. I don't know. Anyway, sometimes things change, and once you start to see it. I'm going to try to blow through a couple more of these. We got Mike Conti joining us quickly. Jarrett, you got like 5-10 more minutes, or you got to go?
I got 5-10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. Patrick Sullivan says, where do moral victories fit into this equation? They ain't real. I like using the word ain't today. I don't know. I'm feeling very, I guess, saucy with ain't.
Nothing wrong with saucy.
Yeah, I don't know.
That Henry Clayton County is starting to really come out.
It happens occasionally. It does. It's been a crazy week, so maybe that's what it is.
Eagles Landing, stand up, I guess.
Yeah, you got to do that from sometimes. But moral victories aren't real. This is a team that doesn't really want moral victories, so I don't think they really matter. And this wasn't a moral victory anyway. So I think Patrick's question was from before about in general, just with the idea of, it's all about winning. It's all about that. So, yeah, it's all about real wins. Moral victories, I don't really care. Over or under 17 goals for Joseph this season, Z-Walk asks. Jarrett, over or under?
Over. I think he's going to struggle out of the gate a bit to find his rhythm. But I think he will hit his rhythm and he will have a stretch. I would not be shocked. I would bet $5 that we end up with a stretch of Joseph has like a goal in 8 or 9 straight games.
It could happen. I'll take the over. I don't think it's over by a ton. 20 was the number that I've kind of set in mind.
Yeah, I just
think he opens the floodgates at some point. It's just not now.
Yeah, I had like 22 or something like that, so I'll go over as well.
Burn says, I care more about good soccer being played than wins or losses. Bad soccer bores me. Sorry, just my opinion. One thing, Burn, I would not describe anything you've seen from Atlanta United as bad soccer. I think that is no, that's not the narrative. That's not the comparison. I don't want to watch West Brom, period, because of the way they play, whether they win or lose. That's bad soccer. What Atlanta United's doing is not bad soccer by any stretch. What they did under Frank de Boer was not bad soccer by any stretch. I know people disagree with that because he had his team pass the ball backwards sometimes and he wanted the defense to be solid. But no, it wasn't bad soccer. Bad soccer is Steve Bruce. Sorry, Alex. Bad soccer is West Brom. Bad soccer, we've seen it plenty of times in this league and in any other league because it happens. Atlanta United is not playing bad soccer. So that's a different comparison. Yeah, I agree with you in that sense, Bernd, but that's not what we're having here. You're trying to play good soccer. You're not there yet. That's not bad. That's in progress, in my opinion. Again, I mean, that's my thoughts. And when I'm watching a neutral team, yeah, I'm going to watch teams that play good soccer. I think, Bernd, I think you said it a little bit later, said, I will watch LAFC games, but I will not watch Seattle or Columbus games. I will too, but that's not what I'm saying. I think I got to make this clear here. If I'm watching a neutral game, I'm going to watch San Jose. I'm going to watch LAFC. I watched the Las Vegas Lights under Winalda because it was kind of wild. I'm going to watch that stuff in a neutral game. I'm not talking about are they going to win a championship or not. I'm just saying I'll watch it because it's fun. If I'm looking for a team to win a championship, yeah, you got to be able to play some defense. And Seattle and Columbus do play some defense, and they win MLS Cups. Does it mean they play the prettiest soccer? No, but does it mean they're the champ? Yeah. And ultimately, championships matter. You want to do both. LAFC's got to show they can. They haven't. Watching them and saying they're a model for the way that you win championships are two very different things. I'm not saying that's the same thing. So I hope that part's clear. I think, Bernd, we're on the same page a lot more than you might think at times, but we are. I don't like bad soccer either. But what we're seeing right now is not bad soccer. If this is bad soccer to people, man, I don't know what to tell you. Because this is not negative soccer by any stretch. They're playing a very high line. They're inviting risk. They're going to do more of that. It's just not clicking all the way yet. That's all. That's my thought anyway. And again, these are opinions. These are all opinions. Good and bad are not words that can really be defined easily in this game. You could say that Zinedine Zidane is the best coach ever because he's won Champions Leagues at a rate that not many people have. Okay, there are others who would say Pep Guardiola is better. And then there are others who would say that, well, Pep hasn't won a Champions League since he left Barcelona, so he's bad. Good and bad are very broad terms that we all define differently. That's what's beautiful about this game. Some people value the defensive side. Some people value rigid tactics. Some people value wide open, freewheeling soccer. Some people value just goals, and if there's not a bunch of goals in the game, they don't care. That's what's great about it. There's many different things you can find and like and dislike in it, and we can always debate about it all week long on Soccer Down here because that's what we do.
Breaking. Can I interject real quick?
Yes, you can.
Breaking news sounder, please.
Just say breaking news sounder.
Well, you were on the roll.
Just say it. It's breaking news with John Nelson.
From BBC Sports, Slavia Prague's Andre Kudela has been banned for 10 matches after being found guilty of racially abusing Rangers' Glenn Kamara. Kamara has also been banned for 3 games for assaulting Kudela, reportedly in the tunnel after the match.
Good stuff, UEFA. It took you a while, but you came around. Good job. And, you know, I wish Kamara hadn't had to assault him because he did something horrible, but I don't think he's going to be too upset about those 3 games.
That'll be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll take that payment. Good stuff. Good stuff. And I'll have to dig in more to it as to how they determined that happened. We heard the La Liga explanation with the situation with Valencia and Cadiz. We'll have to see what UEFA found. Maybe they were able to sync things up with their experts, with the audio, with the video, and interview people and get that nailed down. But I'm glad they did. Wish they'd done it a little faster, but I'm glad they did. Good job, UEFA. Got to give them their props on that.
Yeah. Although it would have been nice to really see, speaking selfishly, Kamara really get to Kudela in the tunnel. I would have liked to have seen that.
Well, you know, we did get to see Gareth Bale extract a little bit of vengeance.
Line him up.
Yeah, so that part's good at least. I'm going to end with you, Jarrett, on this one. We have Fernandes Bruno 18 popping into the Twitch pitch. To change the subject really quick. Hi, guys. I just went into this Tottenham Hotspurs channel and said Son is a cheater. Do you agree?
What?
Do you think that Son is a cheater?
Here?
Yes.
There's a gas leak. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
That is your last question.
Jesus, I didn't pay that much damn attention to it other than just like... if If Son's a cheater, then we got a lot of cheaters in this sport going back to the ancient days, man.
Yes, that would be my take. If that is cheating, we got problems. Because
I love the twist this just took. I need a chiropractor.
Hey, it happens. That's welcome to the Twitch pitch. You never know what can happen.
We went to soccer over there, so we're sticking with it.
It happens.
Hey, you know what though? Tottenham don't care because they're going to make a mint off of Son if they sell him.
They will, and people will buy him even if they think he's a cheater. He's not a cheater,
especially if Bayern Munich's getting in on the allegedly getting in on the Erling Haaland debate now.
Yeah, it's all going to get wacky.
Get so stupid. This summer's going to be dumb.
For me, Son is not a cheater. He did get popped in the face. He did try to make it very clear to the referee he got popped in the face. He didn't invent the contact. That is where I will say cheater. He got hit, and he made a point.
If he had grabbed the man's arm and slapped himself in the face with that man's arm, I could absolutely see where you're coming from with that. There was facial contact. He just made sure everyone in the 3 counties knew about it.
Yeah. Sorry, Fernandez Bruno, 18. I think you got a little impatient. My bad. We were having a lot of other conversations all at once, but no, I don't think he's a cheater. Sorry. Okay, Jarrett, thank you for your time.
Rich cheater.
What?
True. So.
What?
I say if he's a cheater, he's a very rich cheater.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's a lot of those. There's a lot of rich cheaters out there. I don't know if that's the line. Thank you for your time, Jarrett. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
All righty then.
I'll be listening to Mike's more optimistic and upbeat soul that brings a lot more good vibes. Also, his food takes, which are better.
Yeah, well, no, yours are pretty good, but yeah, Mike's kind of the best of the best.
That's because I started sharing like meals on the Discord this week in Cooking with Not John.
Yes, yeah, that's called actually cooking. Good job, Jarrett. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, one more from Martha before we get to business at the end of the hour. Martha says, I like the idea of us playing the long game, building and learning and improving throughout the season. Back to Portland, I question whether they will be playing like they did last night after 25 matches. Those veterans' legs will begin to ache, just saying. Yeah, I question, too. I mean, I like Portland. I've always been very high on Portland, and I keep waiting for that to actually come really good. I have a lot of faith in Giovanni Savarese as a manager. They feel like they are in their last year or next to last year with this group. Yep. And they got to win something with it. So the veterans' legs, yeah. I mean, we talked through it in our preview for CONCACAF Champions League. You're looking at a couple 35-year-olds. You're looking at some 33-year-olds. You got Jimmy Chara, who's the second MLS player to have a hat trick in CONCA Champions. 30. He's one of the younger big contributors. You're going to have to manage that through the season in big games, but the way MLS is structured, you can. You're going to have some midweek games where, hey, it's going to get very, very young, and Blake Bodley might come in and try to, clobber people again like he did last night. He's going to get some time because you got to give Valeri time off. You got to give Sebastian Blanco time off as you get him back into, contributing. You're going to have to give guys rest. So young guys are going to get games. Savarese's got to pick those games. That's what's going to be fascinating about it. But in big games, that's a team that can be dangerous. And they could be one of those teams that finishes 4th in the West and gets to MLS Cup because they can manage the big situations. Sam Williamson, Dom has got to work on his crosses, though. I haven't been too worried about that side of it. Let me look at his numbers from last night. I mean, 3 of 5 were accurate. That's pretty good. I'll have to compare and look back at last year in MLS, for example, as to like crossing accuracy.
Yeah.
3 out of 5 is not bad. I think what Dom looks for from time to time is he does get his head up. He does look for a run. He does look for an option. He doesn't just put a cross in. Yeah. If you follow the English game a lot and then you look at the way Dom plays the wing, they're very different. I always remember having a good friend of mine, Ricardo Montoya, Costa Rican coach, who's now in the managing a first division team in El Salvador. We had with Atlanta FC in the NPSL, we had an English winger playing in this Latin team, which was fascinating just on a number of levels. But he comes into the team, and the first couple of games, it is what you expect. Run to the end line, whip in a cross. Get to the end line, put in a cross. Not getting your head up, just putting in a cross. Putting it into the mixer, as they say. And Ricardo pulled him aside and was like, Paul, you've got to be better in the final third. And Paul's like, I put in 10 crosses in this game. What did I do wrong? And Ricardo said, and Ricardo English is not his first language, but some of the ways he puts things were always perfect. He said, you've got to put a name on the cross. Don't just put it in there and hope somebody gets it.
Yeah.
Put a name on it. Know where it's going. I think Jurgen does a very good job of that. So his crosses aren't traditional from an English perspective, but I think he does a good job of connecting on his crosses. He does like to float some to the back post and bring that into play from time to time, but his cross and his play where he played to Moreno at the spot, you can see the thought process in Dom's head as you see him get his head up when he gets the space. He's looking for somebody to run to that gap. They do. He delivers it on a dime. I'm okay with Jurgen playing that way. I think it suits the way Atlanta will play. So I'm okay with that, Sam. But it is different. It isn't just whip in crosses all day. You know, it's not Julian Gressel. Julian Gressel definitely came from more of that European kind of English style of whip in crosses, just whip in crosses. David Beckham did that all day. David Beckham was an elite crosser because he could whip in crosses, but they were so difficult to deal with. You wanted him to do that all the time. Gressel, you do want him to do that a good bit. Dom, I want him to pick out a cross. I want him to pick out a pass. A pass as much as a cross is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's a name attached to the thought when Jurgen Damm is sending something in, whether it's to the back post or to an individual, there's a thought attached to it. It's not just there for the sake of doing it.
Last one from ATL to Madtown. Is 10 goals, 10 assists reasonable expectation for Marcelino Moreno this year? That's actually a good mark. I think it's not easy to do because not a whole lot of players accomplish that. But as a goal, as a mark to hit, yeah, I think that's a good level for him. I think the equal contribution in goals and assists is what Marcelino Moreno can provide.
Same for Barco? 10 and 10?
Yeah, I mean, Barco, I think I've always felt like he's more of the creator, but it feels like if he plays centrally, he will have more opportunities for goal. I kind of had it the other way. I had Moreno maybe skewed more on the goals, Barco skewed more on the assists. As a baseline for both, sure, but it might be more like in an ideal world, 12 and 8 for Moreno and 8 and 12 for Barco. But let's see how it plays out because Barco's in a little bit different role. My view of that starting to change a little bit. I might go closer to 10 and 10 for him. All right. It is the 10 o'clock hour, kicking it off with John telling us about our good friend Steve Apolinsky in Decatur, GA.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place you need to go. It's Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can go and get information from said firm. You can get a free consultation by picking up the phone, 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve at aa-legal.com, or you can go on the World Wide Web, type in aa-legal.com into the address bar, hit the return key, the enter key, whatever advances you to that next particular page, which is the home page for Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. Bunch of pull-down tabs, bunch of information that you can get about the kinds of cases that they can pursue on your behalf, all of the other accolades that they have received over their time as a firm here in the state of Georgia. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for clients in 2 time zones, the Central and the Eastern. That means they have clients in Georgia and Alabama. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place you need to go. It is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
Okay. That was kind of fast, John. Not bad.
Well, we are past the top of the hour.
Yeah, had a couple of weird bobbles in it, so I'm going to hold the score.
There are times when I'm trying to process, okay, what piece of information have I given? What do I need to give? And that's where the bobble is trying to figure out, okay, what else do I need to get in here before the end of the music?
I love that people, like, when they're busy in the mornings, they will take breaks from the show because they've got conference calls, they've got things going on, but they will make sure to listen to your read. They don't care about the rest of it. They want to make sure they hear you do the read and be able to judge it. All right.
Well,
go ahead.
I have a question for everyone, and I'll start with the two of you as we get into this segment.
Can we introduce Mike first?
Sure.
Hi, Mike.
I consider myself introduced. What's the question?
All right. So how long do you guys wait as your laptop is updating before you get frustrated with it and just go ahead and cold boot the thing?
90 seconds. But I'm a very impatient man.
Because basically for the entire first hour of the show, I've been staring at an update for my laptop, and it says, getting Windows ready, don't turn off your computer. And it has the spinning thought circle of doom, and I'm debating whether or not I should just cold boot the computer for hour number 2.
Is it a Windows update or an Apple update?
Getting Windows ready is what it's telling me.
And it's been an hour?
Been an hour.
Yeah. That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound good.
I would cold boot the thing. But, I mean, the other thing, too, is if you cold boot the thing and it explodes on you, I don't want to be held accountable.
Also true.
But you would be able to see it live on the air, so there you go.
We would. Now, I mean, an hour, I'm sure anyone in the Twitch pitch would probably agree with me.
Yeah.
An hour is way too long for a Windows update. Unless you're, like, upgrading from Windows 99 to Windows 10 or something like that.
And you're asking me about what the specific Windows update is?
John,
I don't even think you would be running Windows 99, John.
Yeah, Sean asked if you were running Windows 98. Patrick Sullivan wanted to see if Windows ran on Commodore 64s.
I was going to say, John, are you using a Gateway 2000 right now?
Oh, wow. Old school.
Are you
nice.
Are you using a Packard Bell?
Ooh.
If you aren't, then you're probably safe.
It's
you
a Tandy.
Hey, I had a Tandy as a kid. That thing was awesome.
Oh, I was
Texas Instruments.
I was anti-Tandy. I had a Commodore 64.
Oh, now that Tandy, man, that thing was, if you wanted to do a household budget, that was what you wanted. I don't really know what else it did, but it did a mean household budget.
Good times. All right. We got to talk about last night, Mike. People are a little antsy after the match last night.
I don't understand. I don't understand that reaction.
I don't either.
I get it. Like, all right, if you're going into, and this might be my fault partially, because I think I was kind of setting the expectation on the pregame yesterday that, yeah, Alowalense, they're going to be shorthanded. This should be relatively easy work. You want to get an early goal and just put this away and relax. And quite honestly, I think that was demeaning to Alowalense. I think they were much, much better than I predicted and gave them credit for. They fought extremely hard for their shirt. Really fair play to Alowalense.
Yeah, Mike, I disagree. I don't think it was demeaning. I think it was I think maybe I was a little more worried when we went through the lineup and how much experience they did have in it, but I still thought it'd be 3-0. I mean, I thought you would be able to handle it. They played better than I expected they would.
Yeah.
They were good. They made it difficult, and they also approached the game in a really smart way. I think their manager, Andres Karvik, really showed a lot of quality here because he knew he didn't have a ton of firepower. He couldn't just open the game up from minute one. He got a little defensive early on and made it difficult for Atlanta. Atlanta had to then open up a little bit more to try to put the game away. That brought some chances for Alowalense. It was a chess match, and Alowalense did really well.
Yeah, they did. But once the game did open up, Atlanta United produced plenty of chances worthy of a 3-0 scoreline. You know, and that's the thing. I think sometimes we get overly focused on scoreline and we lose a little bit of perspective of match control, match state, accomplishing the goals that you had in the match. I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of some of those U.S. Open Cup matches that Atlanta United has had over the years, particularly during the 2019 run against Charleston and St. Louis. You go in there, you're at home, you expect you're going to, put 5 goals on them, and sometimes it just doesn't work out that way, and it takes a while to break them down. But when you do break them down, the goals can come in buckets. Atlanta United worked really, really, really hard to get that goal by Jurgen Damm at the end of the match last night. And they worked really hard to create I mean, two really, really good chances, like excellent chances. One of which was a Moreno shot that was, I thought, really nicely saved by their goalkeeper. You had a near penalty. You hit the woodwork. Once things opened up, the chances came. It was just the finishing wasn't there, but that's okay. Sometimes this is bad luck. You still won the match. You still went through. I'm good with it. We also, I think, have lost a little perspective that this is only the second match that this group has played together with this technical staff and this coach. We were not expecting this to be easy from day one, and it has not been easy. But Atlanta United's got 2 wins to start the season with clean sheets, and they've never done that before. I'm good with it. If it's 1-0 or 4-3, I don't care. Win's a win. I'm good with it. I thought they controlled the match from probably the 42nd or 3rd minute on. I'm good with it. Fair play to Alo Lenze. Atlanta United, once the chemistry really starts to build, and it's getting close, I think they're going to be just fine.
And, Mike, when we were talking about the defensive effort in the overall in hour number 1, I mean, you look at, and we look at it in other sports. I mean, we look at it in football. Sometimes, when you're coming out of a season break, sometimes defense gets there before offense does. And we talk about that in football all the time, the other football, the oblong version. And I think that when we're looking at from these first 2 games, I think that you can talk about the defensive effort in the overarching element of it, but you look at the back line and you look at Bello and Walks and Miles and Brooks, and you're looking at 4 guys that you're sitting there going, okay, yeah, this is solid coming out of the blocks. 0 issues so far.
Plus Sosa, who I thought was phenomenal again. Box to box, by the way. I mean, not just defending. But even like he had one play deep in the corner nearest to the camera in the second half where, I mean, he just made such a cheeky play to knock it off an Alo Lenze player for a corner.
It was a good run forward, too.
Yeah, just gorgeous. So really, really encouraged by that. Thought it's fascinating, really. I didn't get to watch all 90 minutes last Tuesday. I did get to watch all 90 minutes last night because I was in a better position at the arena while the Hawks were playing. Really fascinated to see the goalkeeper involved in the buildup. That's something that's been described to us, but this was the first time I could really visually see it. Really fascinating. Really, I mean, not really, but different than what we've seen in the first 4 years for Atlanta United. Absolutely, John. Miles Robinson, extremely solid. I think Anton Walks has been incredibly solid. And I don't think Alan Franco comes in and automatically assumes anything right now, the way that Anton Walks is playing. I mean, you're not paying Alan Franco designated player money to keep him on the bench, but I think Anton Walks has made a really, really strong case to stay in the mix right now. Bello, I thought, was really, really good last night. I thought Lennon, again, really, really good last night. I thought was really good, hit a couple really nice balls, and I haven't seen him talked about much, was Emerson Hyndman. I thought he hit a couple really nice long diagonals. And so everything from the goalkeeper forward, I can't really complain too much about. Was the final ball there 100% of the time? No. Was the finishing there 100% of the time? No, but it never is. Never is in a soccer match. Unless you're I don't know. I'm trying to think of a total mismatch in Europe. You're Manchester City against
Big Sam against anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, you're Man City against a 5th division team in England, and even then, it doesn't really happen like that all the time. So, but yeah, really encouraged. I mean, the 2 clean sheets. That's really, really encouraging. I love to see that. I know our fans want to see lots of goals, and that's fine. And they will. They're going to score a ton this year. I think we've seen the intent is there to play attacking soccer, even in a situation where, late in that match last night, it's a scoreless draw. You're going to go through. And Atlanta United was still really attacking, even when conventional wisdom might have said, we might want to put a few more players behind the ball and kind of just smother this out and go through. So the intent is there. The goals are going to come, but I want to see wins more than I want to see goalietas. And so far the mission has been accomplished in their first two matches.
Yeah, I want to see both, but I want to see wins first. I want to see this team win trophies. That's the number one thing for me, and you've got to have the base to do it. And that's what you're building. You're building that foundation. Question from Matt Wagner on the Twitch pitch, Mike. Who was your man of the match last night?
I thought when Jürgen Damm came in, he really unlocked some things, and he was the goal scorer. But I struggle with someone who played only 45 minutes. Wow. I haven't looked at who scored. I don't know who they rated highest. I thought Moreno played very well. Like I said, I thought Sosa was excellent again. I think we're going to be talking about Sosa as man of the match in a lot of matches this year.
Yeah.
In a game where you had a clean sheet, though, maybe you do have to lean more towards a defensive-oriented player, and that might be Miles Robinson.
Robinson got it on Sofa score.
Yeah, I would go with Miles, but I would have no argument with Moreno. I'd have no argument with Dom, even though he only played a half. I would have no argument with Sosa.
Barco.
No argument. What's that?
Barco. The boat.
Yeah, I have no argument there either.
He won the vote
really
in our
I thought he was extremely hardworking.
Yeah.
Very, very hardworking. So I have no argument there either. I forget. I did look at it briefly last night. I'm trying to remember who led the team in key passes, and I think it might have been Barco.
In key passes, it was Barco with 4 chances created.
Yeah. So, that's a big number. No argument there either. But again, this is kind of a nice conversation to have when you could look at 5 or 6. And I think this is kind of hindsight ball, isn't it? We're going to have this conversation a lot this year where it's not going to be one individual standing out short of like a Joseph Hattrick or something like that. It's going to be the individuals doing their jobs within the positioning that Heinze is calling for. And if everyone does their job individually, Atlanta United is going to have a lot of positive results this year.
SOFA scores generally a little bit lower with the way that they do their internal rating number, and it's all based on stats. It's not based on voting. So theirs are just a little bit lower. If you're over a 7, you had a good game. Last night, Miles 7.9, Barco 7.7, Dom 7.7, Walk 7.6, Bello 7.3, Moreno 7.3, Rocco 7.2, Sosa 7.2, Heinemann 7. That's almost the team. Lennon 6.9, and I feel like that's harsh because he created 3 opportunities.
I think that's cruel. Yeah. I think that's cruel for Brooks. It started to unlock a little bit when he was interplaying more with Dom, but still. And again, I'm glad that SofaScore had Heinemann at a 7. I thought Heinemann had a really strong match last night that not a lot of people have been talking about. Those are really, really, really fair ratings based on what I saw last night. I don't know if you feel like Barco playing centrally may have worked out a little bit better than Barco playing on the left. I have seen that mentioned a couple times over the last, 12 hours, 13 hours now. So I'll defer to you on that. But I thought Barco was very, very active, hard work, and doing the things that, they're going to show up in the box score, but they don't get enough credit, and that's suffering fouls.
Yeah.
It does show up in the box score, but I think it's overlooked so much. He drew a foul right outside the arc late in the first half that generated a free kick that, if I'm trying to remember correctly, I think it was blocked by someone's face in the wall.
Yeah. And
it ricocheted out for a corner.
Yep.
Again, really, really close to picking out a spot where that could have been on frame. But creating a set piece in a dangerous spot, which is something that Ezekiel has done so incredibly well in the last 4 years for this club, and I just don't think he gets enough credit for that.
Barco and Moreno were each fouled 3 times. Moreno was 4 of 6 on the dribble. Barco actually 1 of 4. That's a little bit low for him in those situations, but the duels. It's because we're always going to call it duels here.
To win your duels.
Oluwalense overall ended up winning 40 of 38, but when you look at a couple of individuals here, and aerial duels, I'm going to leave to the side for a second. Santi was actually 6 of 7 on those. He was excellent in the air. That's something I didn't really expect coming out of his game. But ground duels, Moreno 7 of 11, Barco 5 of 8, Bello 5 of 5, Walks 4 of 4. That's when you're on the ball on the dribble, 1v1, but also when you're defending a 1v1. That's the ground duels, and that's really good numbers from 2 attacking players and 2 defensive players in Bello and Walks.
That's awesome for George and awesome for Anton. Again, you wonder how you get a clean sheet win with how many saves did Rocket Rios Novo make? One,
just one.
Yeah, I mean that's how you do it. That's how you get a clean sheet where you only have to make one save. And look, I know Christopher Gersel, I think, kind of challenged me on it last night. I think that passing accuracy number around 89% is a big number. And yeah, I understand that sometimes that can get inflated if you're playing back towards your own goal a little bit, but it didn't feel like that kind of match to me.
No, I'm going to see if I can find those numbers. CONCACAF, you don't always get the same level of opta in terms of progressive passes and passes directionally. I know that's becoming a thing here, and it really shouldn't be. That's such a non-issue in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I'll read the quote again. Pep Guardiola, "A back pass does not indicate fear, but the beginning of another better play."
Exactly.
You don't want to just continue to run into the brick wall. Sometimes you might have to back up a few steps so you can jump over it or run around it.
There you go. Well, I don't want to put words in Christopher's mouth.
No, it wasn't just Chris. No, not at all.
I think the argument there is you're more likely to complete a back pass than a pass in traffic in the final third.
Sure. I don't think they played back a ton, but they also.
I don't think it was that kind of match.
Yeah, they also weren't under a ton of pressure with their defenders, like your defenders. Against their pressure, they didn't press high. So Anton Walks, which I'm almost positive was the best ever passing performance from an Atlanta United player, 81 of 81.
Wow.
Not a ton of those were under pressure. Not all of them were backwards, but there were a lot of ones where it was play to Robinson to the side, play to Bello on the side where he's open. It was simple passes, but you see those get misplaced from time to time. 81 of 81. Robinson was 82 of 89. Sosa was 44 of 60, but Sosa was attempting more of the progressive passes. He was trying to go forward more, and that's going to be okay. That's what you want from him. But your 2 center backs not giving the ball away in the passing game, you love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I'm really optimistic and encouraged. And I had very high expectations for the match last night. I wanted to see 5-0 like you put on Herediano, or 3-0 like you put on Motagua last year. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see early goals. I wanted to see goals and buckets. I wanted to see Joseph with a hat trick. I mean, I want to see a lot of things last night that didn't happen, but I still feel really good about what I saw. And look, Atlanta United, let's not undersell this either. Atlanta United's made the quarterfinal of the Champions League 3 straight years. Mm-hmm. That's not easy. That is not – it's not easy to make the tournament 3 years in a row. Did they get in with a little bit of a gift this year? Yeah. But, hey, they still hold the U.S. Open Cup, so, whatever. Deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
But you still – look, this was their toughest first round or round of 16 Champions League draw that they've ever had. This was the toughest draw that they've ever had in the opening round, and it's the first time they won both legs of a CONCACAF Champions League tie. Yeah, it wasn't, 1-0, 4-0. It wasn't 1-1, 3-0. It's 1-0, 1-0. And I think the general consensus of what I saw on Twitter last night from neutral observers was pretty positive about the way that Atlanta United played last night.
And, Mike, we were talking about the back, and I think that we saw last night. I want to talk about George Bello for a second. And there was, I know that folks were locked in on Bello a little bit, and I want to say like in the late 50s, early 60s, you could tell that he was hitting a wall. And as the match continued to progress, you could see Bello manage that, push through that, and I think that and he finished strongly after struggling earlier on in the match. And I think that speaks a lot about his growth. And to have these kind of moments early in a season, I think can speak well for any player that has a certain, issue that they're having to deal with. But in Bello's case, he had to push through that wall, negotiate the remainder of the match. And I think it speaks well for his growth as an athlete here.
Totally agree. Very mature. And I think he's working with the right coach, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he's going to be challenged by Heinze in a different way than maybe he was challenged by Frank. But I think the sky is the limit for how George can grow with that kind of direct mentorship and challenge. But yeah, very, very mature performance by him last night. Stayed under control. And found that reservoir of energy, which I think is a really good sign over his fitness and the team's fitness now going forward. And, the one, I guess, kind of drawback of advancing into the quarterfinals now is you're going to have a match compression situation. You'll play Orlando this Saturday. You have a full week to Chicago, and then you could be playing Philadelphia the Tuesday or Wednesday after you play Chicago, followed by New England on that Saturday, followed by another Tuesday or Wednesday against Philadelphia, followed by a Sunday against Miami. So now you've got match compression. I think the one thing, and we talked about this on the pregame show last night, guys, with some questions we got about Eric Lopez. And John, I'm not trying to change the subject on Bello because I think your point is a good one. We're talking about Jürgen Damm not being in the starting 11, Jake Mulroney not getting on the pitch last night, Eric Lopez not getting into the 18. Alan Franco isn't in the team yet. You can only have 18 guys right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, once Mo Adams comes back, I think that's going to be really big. And not a lot of people have really talked about that. I think from a depth standpoint, you're in great shape right now. We haven't seen Jackson Conway at all yet. We haven't seen Tyler Wolff at all yet. These are players who I think are ready to contribute right now. So the match compression for me is a little bit of a concern, but if everyone is healthy, I think it's manageable.
And that's why you built a roster like this, because you
Exactly.
knew that you were going to be dealing with multiple competitions,
Right.
and international call-ups and schedule compression. So when you have a performance like we're seeing from an Anton Walks with Alan Franco coming in, to have that comfortability, to create a word, to have that depth, I think is key. And knowing that you can have that with these early season performances, I think is big.
And that's why you work so hard in training camp. All the hay that you've put in the barn since February 24th is it's being spread across the field right now. I'm really, really pleased with how this has gone so far. In fact, I would even say, and I know some people on the Twitch pitch will probably disagree with me, they're ahead of my expectations right now. They really are. In some ways, maybe not quite, but I think on the whole, they're ahead of my expectations right now. I was not expecting 2 wins over Alo Olense by clean sheet to start the year, one of which he had a first-half red card. Was not expecting that. I have very high expectations for this Saturday, so let's see where it goes from here. But I'm considering all the changes that they have had to go through over the last 6 to 8 weeks and how long it can take to build that kind of continuity. I think they're a teeny bit ahead of what I expected they would be right now, and that's very encouraging.
That's a good topic. I got to think on that one. They're definitely not behind where I thought they would be. It's tough. It's tough to do what you want to do right now. I'm sure Gabriel Heinze probably wanted more competitive matches in preseason. You weren't able to get there. It's COVID, and you're dealing with everything. You did the best you could. You got through. You got through without conceding. You took care of the business in front of you, and now you have an opportunity for a few weeks of regular season games to drill things down and get ready for who we'll find out tonight, either Philadelphia or Saprissa. If you're an Atlanta United fan, I think you are hoping that Saprissa finds a way to pull an upset here because they're the weaker team. Even though you'd have to go to Costa Rica, they're the weaker team. Philadelphia will be a big challenge in a 2-leg series. If that's the case, that will be an incredible early season test for Atlanta United.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am rooting for Saprissa. That would be really, really tough. And I don't know if the first leg would be played road or home. But that is a really, really tough ask. And I don't know if you've noticed, guys. I mean, there's a real energy up in Philadelphia right now. I probably follow it more closely than the rest of us just because I'm from there originally. Their supporters are pumped right now. And they're allowed to have fans now. I would imagine they're going to have a pretty good crowd within the limits of what they can have at Subaru Park tonight. They're really, really pumped up about where they are because they're a team that does not have much Champions League experience. And like Atlanta United, they're out to win trophies. Unlike Atlanta United, they haven't won a trophy other than the Supporters Shield. So, they're out to win this, and that would be a 2-leg war. If those teams end up meeting, that would be a huge early season test. But again, I think going through what you had to go through last Tuesday and what you're going to have to go through on Saturday in that environment will have Atlanta United very well prepared if it gets there.
And we've been talking about it this morning. Folks have been they've been either in Twitter or Twitch pitch and what have you. They're anticipating that the match with Orlando might be a bit of a slog, knowing of what they've seen over the first 2 matches. And I mean, do you have any kind of midweek early vibe coming into this? I know that obviously opinions will change over the next 48 hours as we're getting ready for Saturday. But what you've seen from Atlanta over the first 180 minutes, and you have a keeper who was thrown into the position for 140 of that. But you've got a stout defense coming in. You have an offense that is still learning itself, but there are chances that have just not been completed. I mean, what's your early crystal ball on something like this?
No, I don't think it'll be a slog. I think a slog is a low-scoring match where chances aren't being created. I don't expect a match where there aren't going to be chances. So, yeah, it could end up 1-0 or 1-1, but that doesn't mean it's a slog.
Right.
If both teams are, double digits in key passes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, Atlanta United comes in good form. Orlando City probably better rested, but that might not be a good thing for them. I am really curious about Nani and if he's playing. I get the impression, based on what he said yesterday, working his way through a knock, that if he does play, it would be as a sub. I don't want to, carve that in stone. Mm-hmm. But that did not sound like a guy who's planning on starting Saturday. Could be totally wrong. And even if Nani doesn't start, that doesn't mean Orlando City's not going to be able to be threatening. So I know we'll get more into it later on stoppage time today. We'll get more into it Friday when I visit with you guys again. Just doing some work on Orlando City this week. They're an interesting team, but I'm not really scared about this match. I mean, it's going to be a tough match. It's going to be a really tough match. It always is when you go to Orlando. But I think Atlanta United should feel pretty confident. This is a much, much different situation than the last time you went to Exploria Stadium to play them. You were really, really shorthanded. You were without designated players. You had Orlando City really on fire at that point of the season. Daryl DK was playing his way, really into the conversation to move on to England. And, everything was kind of just going right for Orlando, and you walked into a perfect storm. That is not the case now at all. And by the way, Orlando City's daddy is going to be back too. Uh-huh. And I just think from an emotional standpoint, and look, I mean, does Joseph look 100% right now? No. But I'm still good with Joseph at 85% over what you had to do last year late in the season. And it's going to come for Joseph, by the way. I'm not worried about that in the least. Not worried about that at all. I thought it was really telling by the way they gave Joseph the armband last night.
Mm-hmm.
First time I can ever remember that happening. So you get a real emotional boost having Joseph in this game. I think it helps to maybe even intimidate Orlando a little bit. But no, I don't expect a slog. I think there are going to be chances. How many of those chances are converted? That's soccer. And we'll have to kind of wait and see. But I think it's going to be a fun, kind of free, fast match on Saturday. I'm really excited to see it and call it.
Yeah, Abby, I'll disagree with you a little bit in the way you phrase it. Abby said Joseph was definitely tentative. You could see it on the field. When I hear tentative, and Abby, you might not have meant it this way, I hear he's tentative because of his knee. I thought his reactions were slow. I thought he was more mentally not tentative, but slow because he was reacting to things late. So that is just that needs games. You can't really replicate that in training exercises.
That's not knee. I haven't played much.
Yeah, it's like I'm not reading the game as like I normally do. Stuff like that.
I haven't locked into it's like when Jason and I started doing games together. It took a couple games for us to get each other's timing right.
Yeah.
Same with Joseph.
Yeah,
he's never played with Marcelino Moreno before. He's never played with Jurgen Damm before. He's barely played with Brooks Lennon. So this is going to take time. I'm not worried about it at all. I did not see with Joseph a lack of trust with the knee or anything physically. I think, as you said, Jason, it's those little nuances that he's still trying to read and correct the timing on. And honestly, I think he's pretty close. We didn't really get enough of a read last Tuesday to make a judgment. No, I think we got a little more, but it's still such a small sample. I mean, we're only taking maybe an hour of meaningful soccer as a sample right now. It's too small a sample, I think.
I'm not seeing anything physically yet. I'm seeing it more mental. He'll have a breakthrough, and that's what I think you're hoping for. There's a lot of mental issues here as you come back from an injury. You want to be at your best. It takes time to be at your best. We know how hard he works. We know how much he puts into it, how this all means to him. So, I mean, Alex Pacine has a good point. Mentally he's got to be in a tough place, and given his personality, like he must be dying because he wants to score 5 goals a game. He wants to be the best player on the field, and he's not right now because he has no rhythm. He hasn't played, consistently. He hasn't played 90 minutes since last time he was at Kennesaw when he played Motagua. I think he finished that game.
Sorry to interrupt. To Alex's point, I don't know if he's in a bad spot mentally. I think he might be getting angry. And
frustrated is where I'm at. Right.
That's a good thing. I want him angry.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it last night on the postgame show. There's a difference between being match fit and match sharp.
Yeah.
And it's all these relationships that you're trying to talk Mike, that you were discussing. It's like these are guys that you haven't played with in any games except for the ones that have been against Alajuelense, plus the joint training exercises and those kinds of things. But these are your first 2 times since Nashville that you've been out there doing something with your group. And so it's going to take time, but when it gets there, it'll be what everybody's anticipating, including Joseph.
I can't think of an athlete other than maybe Mario Lemieux who came back from a long-term absence, and his was due to illness, not injury, but someone who came back from a long-term absence and instantly, game 1, was at the level they were at before they left the game. Even the great Michael Jordan. I mean, it took a week or 2 for him when he came back in 1995, and you saw it on The Last Dance. It took a week or 2, and that's basketball, where it's not necessarily about the interplay with teammates. It's just the ability to make jump shots. It doesn't just automatically click game 1 for anyone who's been out as long as Joseph. And I also remember, quite honestly, I mean, we were having conversations like this about Miguel Almiron in 2018. Oh, he can't buy a goal. I even remember
2017
we were talking about,
too, yeah.
If Atlanta United got a penalty, they should put Almiron at the penalty spot because he needs the confidence boost. Like, we were having that conversation about Miggy, who, has been one of this club's best players of all time and is doing a great job over in the Premier League. So, I need to see more of a sample size before really being worried about it. And I don't even think Joseph is worried about it right now. Again, to be clear, I think if anything, it's going to motivate him.
He wants goals. He doesn't have them yet. He wasn't super involved in plays last night, and I don't think that's all on him. I think you're still building everything up from the back to the front and the way this team will get forward.
Well,
you're still building that chemistry.
And Jason, did Atlanta United have a shot from inside the box in the first half last night?
I don't know if I have that.
I don't think they did. I'm almost positive they had no shots from inside the box.
One.
It must have been very late in the half.
Yeah, 1 of 6.
Yeah, that means Joseph's not getting service.
Yeah,
Joseph's not going to chip from 30 yards out. Not getting service. So again, not worried about this at all. Really, legit, not worried about this at all. The chances were coming last night, especially in the second half. Joseph just needs to get the timing down. Not worried about it at all. No way.
All right, we got to say
too early to be worried about
we can't give away all the good stuff, Mike. We got an hour later. We got to talk more about this for stoppage time.
Yes, absolutely. 2:00 in the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. We'll look back at last night. We'll look ahead to Orlando. And we'll talk about what's been a great tournament so far for MLS. Good job, Portland Timbers. 3 more big ones to come. I think Philadelphia is in good shape. I think, Columbus is, you can write them in right now.
Yes.
And Toronto, we'll see. But we'll talk about all that at 2:00.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, guys. See you.
Be good.
Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti 929 on social media. We've got more to get into. We're only going to go 22 more minutes. It is a Wednesday that has a busy schedule for myself, so it will not be a 3-hour show. It's going to be a 2-hour show today. We'll have another hour of stoppage time. And
there you go.
We're trying to get as much out there to you as we can. Yesterday was 3 hours plus the stoppage time preview plus the watch along plus the post game, the 3-hour show, John. That was in the morning. Yes, 3 hours.
I was going backwards. You were going forwards.
Yes. There was a lot of talking yesterday, so I'm going to dial it down just a little bit more today. It's going to ramp back up as we get into the week. Okay. I went and did a little bit of digging on crossing when it came up about Jürgen Damm, and I wanted to share a couple of numbers that I thought were very, very interesting. So Football Reference, FBref.com, has a lot of old-school data. They don't have the 2017 season, so I don't have those numbers. But you can dig into it a little bit, and completed crosses into the 18-yard box, which I would measure as successful, as a good cross. You're completing the cross. It's going to a teammate inside the 18. Last season, Brooks Lennon led the team with 1.23 per 90 minutes played. Jürgen Damm, in limited time, 1 completed cross per game, per 90 played. So 1. He was at 1. I wanted to look back at 2019 and 2018 and kind of where those numbers were. 2019, Julian Gressel, 0.94 crosses completed into the 18 per game. Second was Pitti with 0.42, who wasn't wide as much. 2018 numbers. Let me scroll down to it. In regulars, Julian Gressel, 0.76. Chris McCann, 0.75, actually. Miguel Almiron, 0.52. So Jürgen Damm, it's limited numbers from last year, I know, and they don't factor in the CONCACAF numbers and all that, but it's 3 of 5 last night, 1 per 90 last season. Pretty good, better compared to really anybody in Atlanta United's history so far. I don't have the 2017 numbers. I'll see if I can dig into those. His crossing is better than you might think. It's just different than you might think, to kind of finish that little conversation. Your scores, John, because we didn't get to them, and they are very, very important. Abby gave you a 15 out of 10.
Nice.
You were looking into the camera today. You were very calm. She was happy about the win last night, so 15 out of 10. 10, glorious professional read, 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 10, an elite read, 10 out of 10, another good read, 9 out of 10. Please drop the 2 time zones, Strummer John says. 10 because football is life, 9 out of 10, 9.99. 8.8. Still think the slight pause before .com is needed. I would agree with that. Slight pause. The East German judges in -1 for pulled down tabs, -1 the stumbling and bobbles, -1 for Jason's shocked eyes. It was one of the bobbles that got my eyes going. -1 for no pause, -1 too fast, decent but could be better, 4.7654.
Thank you, East Germany.
Thank you, East Germany. 9, 6 out of 10, 9.1, 10 out of 10. Very good read, very convincing, very personable, new elements, no pause, 10 out of 10 from Burned. Those are your best ever scores. No question about it.
But now my question to the floor, and I will pose this to you first and foremost, is how much of this do you think is directly proportional to last night's result?
97.6%.
That's what I was getting at.
I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, but I think that, and I think that it will be an interesting test case for the remainder of the year on overreaction days after negative results or draws. Mm-hmm. How the grade will be impacted by those.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you from last year's experience, I questioned my ability to make sentences after games based off some of the things that were said about our radio broadcasts after losses. So, yeah, I mean, it does have a factor in it. You're not as good after a loss. You're amazing after a win.
Okay.
It's just how it goes. Some other stuff outside of Atlanta and Alajuelense from yesterday. MLS announced their U22 initiative. No major shocks with that. They also announced that you won't be able to change the international or domestic player status outside of windows. If you get your green card, your permanent residency in 2021, after the opening of the secondary transfer window, they remain an international player through the rest of the season. 2022 and beyond, the deadline for a change to their international status is the roster compliance date, which is the start of the season. No major deal there. I totally understand it. Beginning in 2021, this one was a little bit of a surprise, and I'd love to hear the justification for it. And Tafka, I know, asked the question. I don't know why they did it. I have no way to understand why they did this one. No amount of a fee earned from the transfer of a designated player may be converted into general allocation money. I'd just like to know what the justification was, what the reasoning is there, because I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm guessing it is because they want to promote signing players at a younger age and at a smaller fee and then selling them for bigger profit. They don't want to buy players at big profits or at big numbers and then try to sell them because there's less of a market. I don't know. It's kind of a weird line to draw. I mean, a profit's a profit. I don't care if you paid 15 and then end up selling them for 35. That's fine. They count as a designated player because of that, but you turned a huge profit. Yeah, you should be able to convert some of that into general allocation money. Not understanding exactly what they're thinking there. Also, and this is a good one as part of all this, the league is working. They've created guidelines for players that seek professional development opportunities in MLS front offices. It addresses players who want to gain coaching experience as well as those seeking development opportunities in the front office side of things. So coaching and front office, they are addressing that straight away. That is good. Sports Business Journal is reporting that MLS rights talks will start next month. So rights for broadcasts that expire at the end of the 2022 season, the discussions about who could be in the mix, what those deals could look like going forward, that starts next month, according to Sports Business Journal. The league also announced a big partnership with Procter & Gamble ahead of the season. Gillette, Old Spice, Crest, Oral-B, Dawn, Charmin, Bounty are all going to activate within MLS. PSG will also sponsor the Mexican national team's U.S. Tour, Leagues Cup, Campeones Cup, MLS All-Star Game. CNBC reported that it's a 5-year deal worth $80 to $100 million. It is the widest-ranging partnership to date for Major League Soccer. That's a big one. That is a big one. It's not a game changer, but that's a lot of money coming into the league, and it's a lot of very big brands that will be associated with the league. I like that deal a lot. Good stuff on the sales team for MLS. U.S. women's national team yesterday, good win over France. It wasn't France's top team, but it was a good win. The big story for me out of it is Alex Morgan. Morgan has turned her game into something different, and it started in 2019. She took a beating in that World Cup because she was the number 9 who was combining with everybody. She was the hold-up forward. She was getting hammered consistently by defenses. That is so big, though, for the way this team wants to play. And Vlatko Andonovski said, besides the direct impact with earning a penalty and scoring a goal yesterday, she was also very involved in our build-up. She was able to hold the ball, bring the midfielders into the game, release pressure for us. Alex said, I was really looking forward to this camp in general because preseason with Orlando went really well. I feel like I was able to gain that couple percentage points that I was just lacking as I was coming back from pregnancy. So I felt I felt really good going into this camp. Alex Morgan's the starting number 9 for this team right now. No question about it. And if that means Carly Lloyd doesn't go to the Olympics for this tournament, that's what it means. You're only taking 18 because of the way the Olympic roster rules work. You're going to have to make a decision probably between Carly Lloyd and Katerina Macario, who are the other two who have started up top this calendar year under Vlatko Andonovski. I'm taking Macario in that case. It's not a knock on Carly Lloyd. She has been amazing to be in the mix this long. But Alex Morgan is the starter, and I think you want to get Macario coming in off the bench in those moments. I do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Right there with you.
The Olympics field is set. It's the U.S., the number 1 FIFA-ranked team, the Dutch, number 4, Sweden, number 5, Team GB, number 6. That's based off England's rank. Australia, number 7, Brazil, 8, Canada, 9, and we'll talk about Canada just a second, Bernd. Japan, 10, China is the 15-ranked team, New Zealand is 22, Chile won a playoff to get in, as did China. China defeated South Korea to get in, Chile defeated Cameroon to get in, and Zambia is in. They're ranked number 95 in the world. That is your Olympic field. Burned about Canada. They beat England. England's a little poor at the moment, and they're in this weird transition where Serena Wigman is going to take over the current manager of the Netherlands. She's going to take over after the Olympics, so they're in a caretaker spot. They were kind of in that after the World Cup where Phil Neville was obviously getting ready to leave and he wasn't going to renew his deal after the Olympics. So they're in this holding pattern. Canada still is in transition to me, but you had a pretty decent performance against the U.S. You get the win over England. It's coming. There's still work to do. I think Canada ranked number 9 is it feels a little low from where we thought they would be. They should get higher than that. Are they ready to start progressing up the ranks? Now, let's see how they do in the Olympics. This is a big tournament for them. It's a big tournament for them. But the win over England 2-0 is a really nice win for Canada. They beat Wales 3-0. That's to be expected. 2 good results for the Canadians.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of folks are wondering what the future is going to be without, players like a Christine Sinclair who steps up to fill that void. And as Canada continues to improve on the world stage, I know that everybody gravitates toward a player like what we've seen from Sinclair. Who steps in to be that player for Canada going forward? That's the question I have.
Wrong number. Let's hit this one instead. Bob Williams of Sports Business reporting that MLS has brought in the University of South Carolina as its new education partner, providing higher education resources for current and former players. That had been Southern New Hampshire. Now it is the University of South Carolina. Multi-year partnership with that school over in Columbia, South Carolina, and their online program. So very, very cool.
Yeah, quoting Dr. Jamil Northcutt, MLS's VP of Player Engagement, we have around 800 current players and about 3,500 plus former players, academy players, and being able to offer opportunities to those young men to access higher education when they choose to do that is very critical to us. And so students, meanwhile, from the University of South Carolina will benefit from, this is from the release, from engaging with a variety of MLS stakeholders through coursework integration, league-based internships, and a dedicated speaker series for sport and entertainment management students, exclusive learning opportunities also for South Carolina students.
Champions League in Europe today. Liverpool hosting Real Madrid. Borussia Dortmund hosting Manchester City. Manchester City was targeted by, quote, industrial strength fireworks outside their team hotel
stunned.
at 2:45 a.m., 4:30 a.m., and again at 5:30 a.m. Players were repeatedly woken overnight by, quote, incredible bangs.
Who draws that straw? I mean, if you're a part of the group,
Group?
it's like, okay, we need you for the 4:30 shift to launch the fireworks.
Yeah, like you do that because you're trying to help your team. What?
That's kind of late. That's either late or early.
You're not an ultra, John.
Yeah, you just have to make sure that they're awake and aware.
You're not hardcore, John. You are definitely not hardcore. You're not going to go light up fireworks outside of the University of Miami's hotel as they're getting ready to play your beloved Florida State.
No, considering how Florida State has been the last couple of years, it wouldn't do any good anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, Liverpool hosting Real Madrid. Zidane and his group, they've tried some different things this week to avoid burning players out. I think they actually took them for a bike ride to try to do something a little different. He can't rotate the team. I mean, he's got a ton of injuries. They've won 6 in a row, though, and they're 11-2-0 wins, draws, losses because MLS is now going with that standard, so we're going to try to do it too. 11 wins, 2 draws, no losses in their last 13. However, over Real Madrid's history, they have taken a 3-1 first leg lead into an away European second leg 10 times. They've only progressed 6 of those times. That's surprising. A 3-1 lead going into the away leg, you should feel pretty good about it. 6 out of 10 have they gotten through. That's a little surprising. Little surprising.
Juice boxes real quick for today. Manchester City's at a -149 on the road. Dortmund is a +393. Your draw's a +330. And this is just for the 90 minutes today, not to advance. And Liverpool's a -102. That has shifted a little bit from even money. Real Madrid's a +254. Your draw's a +300.
So this was one of our picks of the week, which how did yesterday go, by the way?
I believe that you and Nick both picked Bayern Munich, sir.
Yep. Accurate. What does everybody have for today's game with Liverpool and Real Madrid? That was our pick, one of our picks of the week.
I'll build up to it.
Okay.
The other guy and Nick have the draw.
By the way, the other guy is John. He doesn't like to try to claim anything in this because he's usually last.
Yeah, and I'm 0 for my last 7, by the way.
Oh, that's bad. Did you go back and check? Did you win the last one from the week before, or is it worse?
Oh, that's a good question. That was work. I threw that sheet away.
You're at least 0 for 7.
I'm 0 for my last 7.
Yeah.
Nick and I have the draw. I'm sure that Nick's probably going to try to figure out how to change his selection.
Nope, can't do it.
Jarrett has Liverpool, and you have Real Madrid at a +252.
Yeah, see, so for Ricky Ricardo and for Michael Ruiz saying, stop doubting Madrid. They keep finding a way. I got your back. That's the pick I made this week. I'm just saying. Nick says he's comfortable in his selection. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I think they find a way. I do. I think it's like a 2-1, 1-0, a narrow win for Real Madrid, and they go through. We shall see. Last night, other stuff, just in case you missed it, we talked about Portland beating Marathon. Cruz Azul, 8-0 win. No shock there. First goal in the 3rd minute. That's what you would expect. Saprissa and Philadelphia today. You've got 3 players who have tested positive for COVID for Saprissa. You don't have Kendall Waston because of the visa issues. Jim Curtin says all players are fully cleared to play on his side. Sergio Santos is healthy after missing most of the preseason with a toe injury. Kai Wagner fully healthy after the horrendous tackle from last week. What are the juice box numbers on Philly and Saprissa tonight?
Philly and Saprissa. Philly is now up to a -227. Saprissa is a +632 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, and your draw is a +322.
2 8:00 games tonight. The other one alongside Philly and Saprissa is Club America and Olimpia. The Mexican club has a 2-1 advantage coming into their home leg. I think they have to sweat a little bit, but they find a way through. The early game is coming to you live from Osceola County Stadium in Kissimmee, Florida.
Update on that.
Update.
From Neil Davidson, tonight's Toronto FC game against Leon will be played at ESPN's Wide World of Sports complex.
Why'd they move it?
CONCACAF objected to Osceola Heritage Park, saying a retaining wall was too near the pitch. Okay. Rather than shrink the playing surface, TFC opted to more venues. That, once again, is from Neil Davidson from the Canadian Press.
Wow, they changed it.
Yep.
That's how crazy it is for Toronto these days. The Colonel wants an early juice box number for Orlando and Atlanta this weekend. Do you have that?
I do. Allow me to change my country of origin here for juice boxes.
You're opting to change your nationality? You're making your one-time switch?
Yes, I am. Okay. Orlando City is a plus 104. That has wobbled around plus 100. Atlanta United is a plus 252, and the draw is the same.
It's a little larger of an advantage than I would have thought. It's probably a little more than the standard home field advantage. It's not crazy. That number's not crazy so far. Final things before we go, and if you have a final question, fire it off on Twitter and on the Twitch pitch. Borussia Dortmund is saying they are not going to sell. They don't have to sell. They said when COVID struck, we had no debt, not €1. They say they're comfortable. They say they're good. They say the rich clubs in the world, they must know when they want a player from Borussia Dortmund. There are two possibilities. The first is that I tell them they have no chance. Other times, I will tell them this is the price. Then they must know this is the price. It is not another price. We are very clear. We are very honest. That is what Hans-Joachim Watzke has said, their chief executive. That's pretty strong. Like, no or yes, this is how much you pay. That's it. All right. Do your thing, Dortmund. Roma reportedly have a meeting with Maurizio Sarri this week. Reportedly, allegedly, possibly. Paulo, well, I mean, a lot of people have met with Maurizio Sarri. That Paulo Fonseca keeps hearing about people meeting with everybody, and he probably isn't going to keep that job. He's probably going to leave, even if they don't push him out the door. He's probably going to walk out the door on his own. Mike Ashley is closing the Newcastle United retail store. Thank you for your love of the Daily Mail and including this one in the notes.
I had to. I saw that, and I'm like, yep.
He's closing the retail store in a move that insiders say points towards a development in the Saudi-led takeover. It could just mean he's cheap. Yeah. He is making he's laying off all of his staff, making them redundant is a very English sort of term. Informing them that the club's proposed new owners do not wish to keep them. Okay, maybe there is something. Sports Mail understands the change is one of the conditions of the Saudi deal. The Saudi deal really hinges on the retail store. We don't want
the retail store up and running or
really
off.
That feels like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard out of the Daily Mail.
We don't want a shopping experience for our fans.
If you keep that store open, we're not buying your club for £300 million. I know that's a lot of money. We're going to spend a lot of money. But that little retail store, that's what the whole deal hinges on. Are you kidding me? Daily Mail, come on now. There's got to be more to it than that. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Absolutely absurd.
Absurd.
Ridiculous. And one bit out of Mexico, Javier Aguirre, the manager of Monterrey, has been fined for breaching COVID protocols after attending his son's wedding in Mexico City this week. He will have to sit out several games, quarantined for 10 days, and fined just under $5,000. Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Pacine chimes in on Newcastle. He says the retail store is actually Sports Direct. It isn't the clubs. Okay, I'm confused, and it's the Daily Mail, so I'm not surprised that it's confusing. I figured they had a separate retail store that was maybe run by Sports Direct. Maybe they don't want Sports Direct to run it. Maybe that's it. And Ashley's just like, well, fine, I'll shut the doors on all of it. They want to do it themselves. That would make a lot more sense than saying we don't want a retail store. That's kind of stupid.
Yeah, we want our own retail arm to take care of it.
Thank you, Alex Pacine, and sorry for having to deal with nonsense.
Sorry, Alex.
What do we have on Twitter before we go?
A lot.
No, we don't have time for a lot, John. That's the wrong answer.
I know, but what I'll do is I'll take from Bart. So Bartimus Prime. Great defensive effort from the back six. Rocco looked more like a pro. Miles and Walks bossed the game. 2. Cooler backs completed a lot of passes, but we struggled when we needed to advance it and quickly. 3, Barco looked like the player we need him to be.
Hold on. Point two is overstated a little bit there, Bart. I don't think they struggled from the backs progressing it forward. I think the struggle was more in the midfield. That's my thought. Anyway, go ahead. 3. Point 3.
Barco looked like the player we need him to be. He needs to be more consistent within the match. His hesitation in the final third cost us a goal-scoring op or 2.
Barco was really, really good. We get really nitpicky on Barco, just like we did to Pity Martinez. And then there's no nitpicking on Sosa or others that are fan favorites. It's a little much. Barco was really, really good last night. He's been really good in the series.
And then point last, we're quick to transition but indecisive in the final third. Hope that improves as we play more.
That improves with chemistry. That's a good point.
We've had a lot of conversation, especially with folks amongst themselves on the Twitter timeline about the U22 initiative and jerseys and Aquamini third kits and things like that.
Yes, John. We don't. Okay. Go follow us on at Soccer Down here. Yeah. And there's a lot of conversation that happens. That's a good thing. We like that. Yes. We can't always talk about every aspect of it that on the show when we're running out of time.
Right. And that's why I was just saluting everyone who is having conversations amongst themselves.
Anything else?
No, there's still a lot there, but once again, glad.
No, anything else we need to talk about?
Merritt Paulson was fined for his comments about the NWSL officiating over the weekend. That was not in the discipline report that was released yesterday. A separate element there. Okay.
Well, it was kind of crazy the way they handled that game at Providence Park. So I understand the complaints. I get it. Got it. He'll take that fine. He'll cut that check. I think he'll be okay with that. Let's see. Ricky said, I thought I saw something about Piojo possibly being considered for the Xolos job. That is accurate. He has been there before. They have moved on from Pablo Guede, their manager, who took over, and that was what led to Leandro Gonzalez-Perez leaving Xolos and going to Miami because the previous manager brought him in. Then they changed. That was a thought that maybe Meza would end up there because Meza had played for Guede at Colo-Colo. It didn't work out for Guede there. He's gone. Now Piojo could go in because Piojo is a vagabond and he still has ties to Tijuana, so maybe he goes back to Tijuana. Sure, that could happen. I could see it. A little bit more as we leave now on the Newcastle store thing. The retail store is run/owned by Sports Direct, which is Mike Ashley. So those sales don't go to the club. So yes, that's where I was saying, and where I think it happens. You're closing the current retail store because it's not the clubs at Sports Direct's. Then you will open your own retail store. But Mike Ashley is, of course, being a plonker about it.
Yes.
Is that fair, Alex? I'll give you a minute to answer before I cut everything off because it's time to go because I've got an interview at 11:15 that I got to take care of. We'll be back for stoppage time at 2 o'clock. Mike and I will be at facebook.com/929thegame. There is a better than good chance that we have a CONCACAF asado tonight for the 8 o'clock game, since there are 2 of them, and we'll focus heavily on the Philadelphia Saprissa game, since Atlanta United will be playing the winner of that in the quarterfinals. We will figure that out, and 8 o'clock is the plan for that. So if you are out there and you don't follow Soccer Down here on Twitter, you're doing it wrong. Follow us. We're there. We share stuff. It's pretty cool. And people have a lot of conversations that you can tap into, which is very good on the Twitters. If you are not following us on Twitch, come on, click the button, please. We'll let you know when we're going to go live, which sometimes happens outside of normal show times. So, it'd be cool if you're clued into that and can enjoy us for a watch along. Those are fun. That could happen tonight. I think that's the plan. So give me time to sort that out. We'll let everybody know. And if you're a subscriber, which is even better than just the followers, then you can be in the Discord. And then conversations can get even weirder and deeper. And Jarrett shares recipes in the Discord.
And I'm banned from that channel.
You are. You're blocked. You're not even allowed to click that button. It shouldn't even show up in your Discord. So all good. Thanks to everybody who follows, who likes, who subscribes, who continues to converse. This is a passionate game, and we all have different feelings about it. And I hope that you guys know that when I disagree, That's me disagreeing. That's not me saying your idea is wrong. There are some things that I will say that I think this element of it is wrong. And I try to base that in fact. And also, if my opinion's different, my opinion's different. That's okay. That's what we love about the game. We share ideas and we talk, and sometimes we get riled up, and sometimes we get angry about wins, and sometimes we get happy about draws. I don't say we're going to get happy about a loss because I don't think that's really accurate. But sometimes we look at the same game and have different opinions, and these things are good. We don't try to create narratives around here to drive you guys into a certain place. I want to bring our opinions to the floor, and you can agree or disagree, and we'll go back and forth with you. They're genuine. They're our opinions, and they're opinions. You know, nobody's in that training pitch with Gabriel Heinze. Nobody outside of the players are in that meeting room and hearing everything he is saying. Nobody knows exactly what is going on and what isn't going on. So we're giving you what we're seeing. We're giving you our opinions. We'll continue to do that. And thank you for joining along and sharing your opinions as well. Even when we have differences of opinion, it's all good. Even when I misinterpret something like I did to the Colonel last night, it's all good. It happens. But thanks for being part of it. Thanks for being a contributor to what we do. We try to make this a community, and I hope you guys feel that same way too. We'll be back later. Stoppage time at 2. Watch along tonight at 8 is the plan. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we've got Nico Moreno of Pulso Sports out in Seattle. He is going to join us at 10:30 to talk about the Western Conference of Major League Soccer as we get ready for the season openers on Friday. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.